This episode of Super Boothers is brought to you by Imaging Spectrum, the preeminent source for printers and printer supplies. With printer brands like DNP, Sony, Sinfonia, you're sure to find the best printer that meets your needs and your budget. Visit their website at imagingspectrum.com.
Hello and welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
It's a little bit more upbeat today.
It's kind of nice. I've been traveling a lot, and it seems like disaster is following me. I was in California, and I was in Anaheim, and there's like a massive fire. And I had to check myself in on Facebook. It's safe again. And I think like disaster is following me. I don't know what the hell's going on.
We were just joking that I don't think we can travel together. Like on our trip to Australia, we might have to do separate flights and separate hotels.
Just like the royal family, they can't fly on the same plane just in case one goes down. So if one plane goes down, Super Boothers will still go on.
That's how dedicated we are. You see that?
There are safety protocols involved in our travel. So today I really want to talk about handling customer objections. A couple of people have emailed me this past week, and their big thing is like discussing like the sales process, and whenever they get a customer objection saying, well, I like you, but, or, we want to book with you, but, and there's always the but. I've always been a firm believer, and there's a million times difference between a salesperson and an order taker. I think that an order taker is just like, okay, you want the booth from, 9 to 10 or, 9 to midnight or whatever. Here's the price. Do you want to book? Yeah, sure we do. Here's a credit card. Great, fantastic. You're not selling. You're just taking an order. Selling really has a lot to do with objections. I tend to enjoy it.
Seems like most people prefer the taking order role because it's easier. But a lot of the issues that people have with growing their business is related to closing the deal, overcoming these objections. So hopefully this show will be helpful to those people out there.
That's a big difference is whenever you are hungry for it and whenever your livelihood depends on making money, that's when you become a really good salesperson. That fire that, keeps you going and pushes you forward. For some people, it's their kids and they want to provide a better life for their kids, or, you have goals of buying a house or whatever the case is. Learning to be a better salesperson, it pushes you forward and not only grows your business, but it keeps you from, becoming stagnant.
What about people who don't want to sell, who just want to be the order taker? They're fine with whatever income comes in, and they feel. A lot of people have this feeling where they feel kind of sleazy selling. Something about being a salesman feels wrong. What would you tell those people?
Okay, bye. Stay poor if you want to. That's absolutely the truth. Don't get me wrong. There was a very so I left Houston and I moved to San Antonio, and I started just doing photo booths just completely by itself again, and I got really complacent. I have been very complacent up until maybe about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I was like phoning it in. I didn't care. I was order taking. Granted, I was order taking at the time because I did have a lot of like a current book of business, and that current book of business allowed me to have a decent life. It was only me and a handful of employees, and I really wasn't responsible for much. So if you booked, great. If not, no big deal. No sweat off my back. Another one is just going to come right along. However, I stayed complacent. I stayed where I was at. I was comfortable. I was fine. However, if you really want to get to the next level, that's where you kind of have to like put some actual effort into it. One of the things that I did that came up recently is, so I had a personal brand not too long ago on my Instagram. It's at underscore it's at OMG underscore Ryan underscore just. And that personal brand that I built to about 12,000 Instagram followers, that can happen just naturally for some people. I had to work really hard at it. And so one of the things I did was I sold t-shirts So, for example, like one of the T-shirts that I just sold, the "I Say Bad Words" shirt. That one is just I just added to my personal brand, just because it's something that I did, in a previous life, and I have an Etsy store. I still keep it going. The big difference with that one is you're selling your stuff in different ways that you didn't know really existed. People really didn't know they could make money on Instagram up until recently. Being able to monetize social media.
For people who feel a little bit of anxiety in this sales role, what I tell my team is that you're really in a no-lose situation. There's no reason to be nervous. If you're dealing with a customer that has objections, right? Most likely, if you're just an order taker, you're going to lose that customer anyway. So I try to get my team comfortable in selling to them by telling them, hey, it's okay. You can't screw it up. More than likely, we weren't going to get this booking anyway. If you do, it's a bonus. So I think that gives people the freedom to experiment with dealing with these objections and trying to convert them into sales without that anxiety and that pressure.
If you are a new business, or if you are an established business and you're bringing on a salesperson, I've always been a firm believer is it takes 3 months to build your book of business. If you are selling every day, and I actually mean selling, not just order taking every day. Selling consists of going to venues, saying, hey, listen, here's what I have to offer. Cold calling, it sucks. Everyone just kind of needs to do it. If you're not picking up the phone for at least an hour a week, calling new people, you are not doing your job as a salesperson. That's just plain and simple. Funny enough, in hotels, they make you call an hour a day each week.
Yeah, I was going to say an hour a week seems pretty low.
Yeah, but that is like the absolute bare minimum that you need to do to continue to build your business and further your business. So,
and right, you're saying that until your business gets to a point where you can hire someone out to do that, right? So you think that the founder, the owner, is the person responsible for that sales role until it's big enough to hire somebody else?
In the beginning, I have always said this, and this is a common question that I am asked almost on a weekly basis. When do I hire X person? Like, when do I hire, another photo booth attendant? When do I purchase another photo booth? When do I hire a salesperson? When do I hire someone to handle all my accounting? Whenever the job cannot be done effectively is when you need to hire another person. If you are, I've been there, you're a small business owner, whenever you first start, you're doing accounting, you're doing the selling, you're doing the servicing, you're doing all the prep work, you're doing the ordering. I get it. It's a lot. And you know what? For the first, couple months, year, or even couple years, you're doing that by yourself. Whenever it gets to the point where you cannot do it effectively is when it needs to be delegated to someone else. Whenever you hire a salesperson, you need to put pressure on that salesperson. Listen, the only reason you're here is to bring in more business. You have to have a goal. You have to bring in, $1 million in sales to justify your salary.
I would actually go as far as to say you'd want to hire people earlier. You'd want to get things off your plate earlier so you can focus on growing the business. But I definitely see what you're saying. That most people feel reluctant to let that go. So you do it until it's effective, and then after it's not, you have to get somebody else to do it. But counterintuitively, the quicker you get those things off your plate, the better your business will be in the long
I
run.
Absolutely agree with this. Oh my God, I admitted it again. No, but So that's the thing is, for example, it is in our busy season right now. If you are not busy right now, you have done something wrong. Even if you're in some sort of rural area where now is busy season is the point that I'm getting at. You should have hired part-time help already. Part-time help. If you haven't looked for part-time help, you need to find someone this week. Just because whenever you're in the thick of it, you don't have time to train someone. You don't have time to troubleshoot and figure something out. They need to be doing their little pre-flight checklist and all that other good stuff all ahead of time. They should know what they're doing by the time busy season hits.
So let's go through some objections that are most common that people deal with and talk about how we would suggest handling them.
So the first one is you're too expensive. So, and I'm sure everyone has heard this, and this is the part that I really hate, is whenever people really get, and I'm just going to say this, just very full of themselves. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do anything that cheap. you know what? I get it. You don't want to do anything that cheap. If you come across to your client, you're just going to come across as, being rude, or you don't essentially value their business, when I would...
Well, and also you kind of validate their belief that you're too expensive, because you start acting like you're better than them and you're too expensive. So you kind of validate their belief.
So this is the problem: is if they say that your product is too expensive, that is your fault. It is your fault because you haven't demonstrated enough value to justify your price. That's another thing. They may not be able to afford it. There have been emails that I got that says, "Oh my God, I absolutely love your work. I'm so sorry, I just can't afford it." And then, if you have an ability to sell a lower option, by all means sell that lower option. I can't, if you can't get $4,000 out of someone, but you can squeeze $1,000 out of them and still be profitable, go for it.
I think that this is probably the most common objection someone has, and because it is, it's often it's often like a default response where it's hiding what the real concern is. So you have to kind of get through this objection to try to find out what they're really concerned about.
Another one is, I will buy if you add these features. So, or they say that another company is providing me with X, Y, and Z. And that could be unlimited printing. They could be doing a green screen for free. They could be doing whatever the upgrade is. They can say, well, we'll buy if you do this. I am of the belief that if it's a slow day, if I could use the cash, if an attendant needs the work, whatever the case may be, I'm going to negotiate something that is still profitable for me, that really won't cost me anything. Like if they want to add texting and, I'm in a good mood that day, absolutely add the texting, knock yourself out. It doesn't, it costs me pennies per
really
text
common
message.
In the software world, and I've dealt with this a lot, and it could be a valid concern. But in my personal experience, more often than not, I think that people say this but don't really mean it. So I like to play around with this, where if someone is asking for additional stuff and I can maintain my price, I say, okay, done. And you'll actually find a lot of them don't take you up and follow through with the booking. So it's a really interesting thing that I've noticed from their psychology. They think that these additional features are the real issue that's preventing them from blocking booking, but there's really something else going on. And a lot of times I like to experiment with sales. I offer it to them as no problem, and they still don't follow through. So it's a weird thing that goes on with this objection.
That's another thing is I just got an event. So I did an event at a museum it was an exhibition opening. It was so cool. Everyone had such an amazing time. I did not realize how many influential people came to that particular event. I booked 2 events today from an event that I did a month ago that came from this one event where I did next to nothing for. And it's no printing. It's just a green screen and a GIF. And that's it.
Yeah, you even talked about that Oprah event where you didn't really have many features, right? So, again, this could be a valid objection. I just think that a lot of times it's smoke and mirrors and there's something else really going on behind it. But you'd have to experiment with your customers and see what it means for you.
Sure. Another one is whatever you're offering isn't a priority for us right now. You know what? With the photo booth, we are absolutely bottom of the totem pole. We are one of the last things booked. If there is an event, they have most likely spent a decent chunk of their money, and we're the last thing booked. Sometimes that's fine. And you know what? That very well may be, not your right customer.
I also think that if you're getting this objection, you probably didn't do a good job of really understanding the primary motivation and concern of the client. So if you really understood what they really, really wanted, their main desire, you'd be able to really position your service as a solution that is a priority. And that's not to say that you can book every single client, but in most cases, if you really understood their desire, you can position your service as a solution that is worth being a little bit higher up on the priority scale.
Yeah, and you almost need to uncover what's actually going on, and you may not have addressed all of their needs correctly.
Yeah, so I think a lot of these objections can be masking their real concerns. So it's up to you to kind of dig in and figure out what that is.
Another thing is, you know what, you got a great product and it may be so far like off the deep end, crazy, experimental, like you're doing all sorts of like, here we go again, Kelly Williams crazy stuff, and the client may not be comfortable with that. And I have had this before. You've actually had this where you try to sell them gifts and boomerangs, and they're like, yeah, can you just do strips?
Yeah, and I don't get it. So tell me, Ryan, what do you think?
I have no idea what happened with that particular client. I mean, I will say this: if I had one particular photo booth that I used for the NBA, there is no way in a million years I could ever show up to an event that I did for them without that exact same booth. There's just no changing them.
Yeah, that's a great point, is that some people, especially the bigger clients, may be used to the industry standard. They may be used to the norm, and they don't want to deviate from that because it's usually someone that works in a role at that firm, and they don't want to take a risk, right? So it worked last year. It worked the last 5 years. Just give me the normal thing. Everybody's okay. I'm not going to get in trouble for that.
Yeah, some people may not want to break barriers or do something different, but you also have the opportunity to flip someone. And you know what? Hey, let's go ahead and do that. I'm actually doing an event. It's a Day of the Dead event. I'm so excited because I'm Mexican. I love sugar skulls and colors, and it's just in a Mexican culture, death is really like celebration. It's not a happy time, but it is like a time of remembering people and remembering, impact that they brought each or whatever. I love doing stuff like that. So that is where I'm able to have my creativity. That's another thing, is that a client doesn't know what they want until you show them. This client is ultra traditional. They've never done anything like this, and the committee is ultimately so excited because they are doing something completely different that has never been done before in this town.
The other tactic with this is that you can, instead of positioning yourself as the anti-standard, the anti-traditional, you can kind of pitch your service as being traditional, but also having the option to do the cooler things, the gifts, the boomerangs. We can still do the plain strips or whatever you're offering, but if someone would like to, we have these other options as well. So don't make it be an or thing, make it be an and thing.
Yeah. There's a book called the Method. So the soap at Target method. There is a book on it. It's called the Method, and it really talks about how to handle answering questions like this. Whenever you're giving a response to someone, never say yes but. If you make a statement yeah but, don't say that. Say yes and this is such a little thing. It's kind of like going to Chick-fil-A and you say, oh, thank you so much, and they say, my pleasure. I'm so sorry, there's nothing else that makes me feel happier in this world. It's just the stupid little things like that. So whenever you contribute to a conversation, the best way to respond to something is by saying yes and, because then you're contributing, you're adding more value. You're not just taking whatever the other person just said and flushing it down the toilet.
Yeah, and there are actually some sales organizations that teach their salespeople never to say no. Never say no, never say but. Always use things like and try to not make it seem like a negative conversation where you're restricting things from the client.
And that's the thing, is even if a client is spending less money with me, I'm going to absolutely reassure them that they are making the right decision. For example, there was a little it was a 16th birthday that I did. And the woman was saying oh, well, I don't know, should I take off the printing, whatever, because I was charging more for additional printing. And I was like, you know what, you don't need the printing. These kids, they're going to take 1 million pictures, they're just going to want it on their phone, it's fine. And I made her feel comfortable with the decision that she made, even though I made the decision for her just to save her money and not make her feel bad about it.
Yeah, a trick that I use too is I actually tell people, if I'm speaking to them on the phone, I tell them, a lot of times people actually, they take the prints and just take a photo of it and upload it online anyway. So that kind of paints, I think anytime you can paint a picture rather than just saying stuff, it makes it more like easy to resonate. So telling people, hey, you know what, you don't need the printouts, you just use the digital option. Anyways, people will immediately take photos and upload it. Helps them really understand what you're trying to say.
So another thing is, I don't have time to talk right now. And this is something that you will hear very quickly. If you're doing like cold calling, all that other sort of stuff, you're absolutely going to get a million hang-ups, and then people saying, I can't deal with you right now. If you hear it later on in the sales cycle, like let's say like you followed up with someone, you know, you've made like, this is like a phone call that you're making, you know, 3 weeks later, I would almost call this just completely dead, and I would just drop it and just, it's never coming back to you.
How often would you try to contact them before you say that?
You know, that's the thing is I generally contact people by email more often than I contact them by phone. I will only contact someone by phone is if they tell me to request, like if they request it, like, hey, can you call about this? I have some questions. Absolutely. And generally, if I get them on the phone, I will have a card by the end of the conversation.
I think that is a more direct way of people ending the conversation, saying, hey, I don't have time right now. But there's also a nicer way where people say, just email me more info and I'll get back to you. I think that's the next one.
So this is another thing is whenever people do that, it's something that like kind of like seems like a no. I mean, everyone is busy and they may not have time to, you know, really process whatever you're trying to, you know, essentially tell them right now. Whenever they say email me all the info, do not in a million years send a long-winded email and 10 PDFs attached to it. Send a short thing, bullet points. If you bullet point the thing, everyone now has such a short attention spans. I have 66,000 emails like that are unread in my like my personal like email from just like random things that I'm like subscribed to. I'm sure other people get a million emails a day.
Yep. Do not underestimate bullet points. Seriously. I think you're spot on. People get like text weary, and they're so used to these short things on social media. Everything they read is short. If you start sending overwhelming amounts of stuff, you're just making it more difficult for them to engage you. And your job should be making it easy for them to engage you. So I definitely agree with that.
So this is another thing. Whenever they say, email me information, text me more information, can you call me later? This ball is in your court now, and it is up to you to follow up with all of your prospects. Because if you don't, you're just surrendering the deal. They're going to forget about you, like whatever. The only way that they're ever going to come back is if they used you previously or like by some random fluke. You know, this was a referral and they like saw that person. Hey, did you end up booking that person? No, I need to call them. That's your fault for not following up with them.
I mean, this definitely goes back to follow-ups. And if you haven't heard our show on that, I strongly suggest you listen to that. I think that's probably the easiest thing to implement into your sales system. And it's probably the one that will yield the most results. You have to do the follow-ups. You have to.
Did we do a follow-up show?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
We've done so many.
Did I say good stuff?
We said amazing stuff. I'm trying to find.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So, so this is a big thing. Is whenever you deal with anything larger or corporate, they're always going to say, "Well, I can't make a commitment until I meet with, you know, the committee, or I meet with the staff, or I meet with, you know, another decision maker." This is something they teach you early on in hotels: is find out who the person I need to be talking to is. There are times where you get stuck with the little marketing girl, and by the way, I have a marketing girl that's going to come on the show. We just secured this. It is going to be so much fun. Ismail, did I tell you this?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well,
you told me right now.
Fabulous. So we're gonna do an interview with a marketing girl because I need everyone to hear what goes on through these little girls' heads. So that's the thing is your client. There was one, I think the youngest client that I've ever had was like 20 years old. She had no clue what she was doing. However, it is my job at that point to help her make the right decisions and to not make her feel stupid. That particular girl is not the one that's going to be on the show. However, I'm just saying that like I have literally dealt with them all.
This is not only this is a very general sales issue, and it's not only limited to corporate company events. I think even when someone's trying to get a booth for their Sweet 16, you know, the committee, maybe their parents, or for a wedding, the bride may be talking to you, but she has to get confirmation from her spouse. So I think there are always like other stakeholders that you need to get approval from. So understanding who they are early in the process, even if you can't talk to them, helps you gear your conversation in a way that gets their approval as well.
That is step one, and that is finding out who is the person that is going to cut the check.
How do you find that out in the corporate situation? Do you just ask?
I ask. I say, like, is there anyone else that I need to be talking to? Like, if it's an agency, like, do I need to know the end client? I will happily. If it is a close event, I want to talk to the end client. I will tell the agency or whoever it is that I'm working with, listen, we're not going to discuss price or anything. I need to know what their expectations are so that I know what I need to do on my end. Because what you don't want to have happen is not ask the right questions to where after the fact your little like middleman client says, oh, well, can we do this? And it's too late, which very rarely it is. But for example, like analytics, there are some photo booth systems that provide that, others do not. If I know that I need to have analytics in the beginning, I know which software I'm going to put them on.
See, what I found, and I don't know if this is true for a lot of people, is that when I'm dealing with the marketing girl or whoever at a company, they seem very reluctant to engage their boss or whoever the decision maker is, or even tell who they are, because they feel like this is their responsibility, and if they have to loop other people in, they're not doing a good job. So I have a hard time navigating those waters. I don't know if you have any advice on that, or if that's just the way it is.
So very rarely, this is the thing, is what I would say to combat that is, I need to know, let me help you. If I want to know what this person is expecting, and I can deliver that to them. If I know that I need to deliver that, I can make sure that they're happy, and we don't have to worry about anything else. I can remove that from your plate. That is something that I can help you with. I'm making your life easier.
That makes sense. I just think that oftentimes they don't know what the decision maker wants. They're kind of just, all right, let me get back to you, let me check, and they're not sure themselves what would make it an easy approval. So, I mean,
it's hard.
That could just be my experience.
That's what happened with the New York event. That I did with Oprah, is that I didn't find out, like, I officially got the gig until like 5 days before, even though I had talked to like my main contact over a month ago. Like, the little girl that I was dealing with, she had no clue what was expected from her boss. Her boss was on her honeymoon. Like, she wasn't going to contact that person. I knew the more information that I give her after the fact, the better. Like, I know that she's going to want analytics. I know that she's going to want, like, the best samples so that they can post on their social media. Like, the more that you can just, like, information that you can pluck out of people, the better.
So what about the kind-hearted sweetheart that's cheery and says, we'll buy soon, and next week turns into next month, and next month turns to never?
Ask them a specific date. How about I follow up with you on Friday? What time works for you? 10 a.m. or 3 p.m.? You need to put someone, hold their feet to the fire, and really get them to commit. And this is another thing. They don't have to always commit. If well, I don't know. Okay, well then, you know what? Not to waste your time on them, or to put them on the back burner. One of the things, I don't know if anyone has ever used like Salesforce or like really like massive like CRM software. You always are able to quantify leads as hot, cold, or warm. Or assign a percentage as to what you think this person is going to book. You know what? They're really 50-50. Or I spoke with this client. I know deep down in my heart that she is going to book and it's a 90% a go. Or they've given me, a verbal confirmation or an email confirmation or a text confirmation that says, yes, we're a go. I'm just waiting for, accounting or someone else to sign off on it just as a formality. So if you say, oh, we'll buy soon, you say, when can I follow up with you? How's next Thursday? Can we talk at 5 p.m.? Can we do this? Can we do that? If they're wishy-washy on that, don't waste your time.
What I like to do is I like to move the ball further down the field. So even if they haven't really paid or technically committed, I'd say, okay, fine, you'll buy soon next week. Great, I'll follow up. In the meantime, what would you like the strip design to look like? and I get them more invested in the conversation, assuming a close. So that they're more invested, they're telling you what their design will look like, and without really closing them, you've kind of moved them closer to the sale without really doing it directly.
This is called assuming the sale. There are plenty of books on this.
Assume the position.
Well, whoa, calm down. Wait a minute. Never mind. This is a family show. It's a family show. So no, but this is the thing: is assuming the sale is literally how I have lived my entire life. It is the verbiage that you speak with them on the phone. If a person is shopping, and they call, well, hi, I saw that you had some stuff, listed on this website. What do you think? How much is it? Blah, blah, blah. You get them invested in this stuff. I booked someone in like 3.5 flat. I was on the phone with her. And again, I said beautify filter. I said Snapchat filter. I said, ring light. I said that you use these buzzwords to your advantage. I remember maybe last year or 2 years ago, actually before that, email was a big thing. Oh, we can email it to you. And then now it's, well, texting. Oh, we'll just text it to you. And it's so crazy because, we're doing this off of, every software does it now. So it's just, there's no excuse not to do it. But the big excuse that is a problem is not being able to articulate this to your client, even though what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to have someone get to the event. Oh, you can text it. We can do that. I don't want that. I want you to know exactly what you're getting way beforehand.
Mm-hmm. What about gatekeepers?
What, excuse me?
Gatekeepers?
Oh, I thought you said something else.
No, this is the next thing on our list, Ryan. Stay focused.
So,
gatekeeper.
These are like roadblocks. This can be like if you're doing a wedding and the dad's paying for it. It's usually not a commonplace. You'll find it a little bit more higher end stuff. Those people are a very unique objection. I am the master of making a bride fall in love with me and a mother fall in love with me. That is absolutely been the key to my career, is you play to the bride with the features. And because the mother's not going to care about all that crap. However, if you play to the mother stuff, oh, well, you know what? You're going to be able to do this. We're going to do like a little skin filter. You're going to look 10 years younger. It is amazing. Let's try it. I mean, you just play to whatever it is that you're just speaking their language is all you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to the marketing girl where you kind of said that you want to make their life easier. So I think the similar kind of thing applies here where you're trying to understand the gatekeeper and trying to make it easier for them to just get this decision done because they've got other things to worry about.
This is just, there's a book, something called like Winning Every Argument or something, or like Everything's an Argument. I love that stuff because it just shows you how to weasel in and out of stuff. This is the thing is I have done both, and I actually said this to someone at our Dallas event is, me personally, I maybe do backdrops every now and then. I'm absolutely never going to do an enclosure. That's just not me. However, there is someone that's all they do is enclosures. I know how to sell against someone. This is also something you need to know is how to sell against other people's features. So let's say that you only offer enclosed booths and you are with a client and they have an objection, and that objection is, well, in an open booth you can get 15 people in there. As an enclosure, you can say, well, with an enclosure, you can get, a little bit more privacy. People can do like a little bit more like cutesy things, whatever. Versus the other way around, selling against an enclosure, it's too big, it's too bulky, it can't fit, and, it can't be as versatile, whatever the case may be. It is learning how to sell against your competitors. That is true sales, is to be knowledgeable not only about your stuff, but about what other people in your area are offering. And you know what? A lot of this comes down to quality. You know what? We're going to do a ring light. Well, I have a DSLR booth. Our quality is 10 times better. Well, on the flip side of that, with an iPad, you could say, our iPad, it's quick, everyone gets like their photos instantly. They can share it. Da 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 da.
I mean, I think generally this is a huge thing in sales where you're saying selling against other people. I also think it's emphasizing what's unique to you, right? So you see this even in things like fast food, where like the big three, McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's, they all have that one unique thing that they really push. So with Burger King, it's like flame broiled beef. Wendy's is fresh, never frozen.
Well, I love that long chicken sandwich at Burger King. It's the most disgusting thing you could ever eat, and the sodium will kill you alone. I love it.
But the point is that they know what's different about them, and that is what they push. If you don't want fresh, never frozen beef, you're not going to go to Wendy's, and they don't care. And I think that's important in our industry too, is understanding, like you said, you don't do enclosures. If someone wants an enclosure, that's not your client.
Not my client.
And it's okay. You have to focus on what your uniqueness is, and go after that.
So this is another thing that I like is, and I actually did get this a lot in so there was a point in my business where I legitimately didn't care. I was doing photos because I was good at it. There was nothing challenging about the business, and it was just something I knew that I could do to make money. One of the things that I would say it was like a 10-month period where I literally just didn't care what happened, and it was a very horrible way to run a business, but you know what? I was going through a lot personally. I just didn't care. That I am paying for to this day because of my complacency back then. Granted, I was in a unique situation that most people really aren't in. Like, if you have your own business, you're in it, all in it. I've been self-employed since I was 17. I got scathing reviews back then. And there are some that are like still out there today if you search really hard enough for them. One of the things that I made a decision, I was like, you know what? I need to turn my business around. I sought some consulting help and was like, listen, what do I need to step up my game here? Like, what do I need to do to bring me up to par again and go back to where I was? One of the things I would absolutely love whenever it happened, I would get a phone, I would be with the client by email, we'd go back and forth, they'd be ready to book. Somehow, maybe someone would say to them, oh, check your reviews or whatever. They would see a review and they would call me out on it. I love that stuff. There was one review where this woman, I did her daughter's wedding. So she had two daughters that got married within 6 months of each other. The first wedding that I did went flawlessly. The mother was so happy. We did everything perfect, great, fantastic. Point is, this is in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Literally, you're driving down a highway and the bride's mother told us, if you don't have gas, you need to get gas at this gas station because you won't make it to the ranch and back. Like, that's how in the middle of nowhere it was. So the second daughter comes around and she said, oh, filled out a questionnaire, did everything. There was zero cell phone service out in the middle of nowhere. I sent out an attendant to do it. The attendant goes, I can't find this place. It's not showing up. Like, I don't know what to do. I said, stay down in the area. I'm sure I'm going to get a pissed off phone call where she's going to say, where are you? And then I can say, hey, whatever. So we were calling and calling and calling, not getting anything because there's no cell service. Finally, we get a call from a landline. And she's like, where are you? I said, the attendant is down there. He needs to get to you. He is lost. I can give you his cell phone number. He's been trying to call you, whatever. Well, sure enough, there was some time issue where normally if that would happen, I would say just, stay later. But they had like a hard end time. So we ended up only doing like an hour of actual service by the time he got there. And this was years ago, whenever it took like forever to set up the photo booth. But anyways, I had a resolution with that client. Practically gave her all her money back. I did a memory book for her, whatever. She still left a scathing. There was blood dripping off of this review.
Even though you gave her money back.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that just annoys me the most is, you try and do, whatever you can. I believe it was on a platform that I could not respond to her, which is just far annoying to me. And it literally, it's just been like the bane of my existence. Like, I can't stand it. So to this day, people will call and they will say, I read this review, what happened? I will absolutely tell them the story. The bride's mom gave us an inaccurate address. She inverted numbers, so we were on one side of the highway when we should have been on the other. And it literally took 30 minutes to get to the other side because, like, that's, like, completely how far it was. And these, like, it's like random farm roads. Like, it's so annoying. But I love when I get this objection. So there's someone that will say, I saw that you were late. I saw this would happen. I said, listen, this was an isolated incident. I said, I will give them reviews. If they ask for references, I will give them a planner. I will give them a bride within the last 2 weeks. And then I will give them a mother or something or whatever, a birthday party, whatever that we did. Here are all our references. Sometimes I will say, here is all of our list of, events that we've done. Here's events that have gotten published. Just, you kind of have to sing for yourself at this point. But what I really love is I said, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I said, this is not the first time I heard this. I said, we have worked really hard on improving our reviews again. I will explain what happened with that instance. And I say, please, thank you so much. I would love for you to write us a review after you receive our service. Every single time I've got that objection, I have booked that client.
That's so interesting that I'm kind of surprised that people still ask you about that one review from years ago. That's kind of surprising to me.
And that's another thing is I say this review is from 2014. This is not the case of what we had now. And this is, I do 600 events a year. Someone is bound to be late at some point. That's just how it goes.
Is this usually over the phone where they ask you about this, or is it via text or email?
If it's gone both ways. So sometimes they will email me and they say, I just saw a review, whatever. I will email them what happened. And if they say, please call me, I'll call them, we'll talk about it. But I will say, thank you so much. We've absolutely known about this. We work very hard. We do 600 events a year. You know what? And that's another thing is you have to keep their expectations real. Stuff does go wrong. I have had an attendant's car get totaled on the way to an event with the booth completely damaged.
Yeah, like I said, we all know people look at reviews, and that's a major factor in booking. But I just never really heard people citing specific reviews when as objections. That's kind of unique. At least I've never had that happen to me. So that's really interesting to hear.
That's because you're perfect.
Yeah, I don't have any of those bad reviews. Sorry.
Well, this is a valid thing because I do 600 events a year. Statistically, somebody's going to be pissed off or not happy.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. And that is something that has taken me a long time to learn. Whenever I got my first bad review, I don't know I'm sure people have had this. You take it so personally and you want to be vindictive about it and be like, oh my God, blah, 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 look what they said. And you want to fire back with some stuff. Just don't. They don't take it personally. They don't care. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their situation. They're pissed off because they're, going to marry someone that they're just going to divorce in a year. They have their own problems. They're just looking for someone to, point the finger at, and just so happens to be you.
No, and I remember sitting down with my brother before we started our business and saying from the get-go, and I say this to other people too, is things will go wrong. Maybe it's not a bad review. Maybe you'll forget a piece of equipment. If you go into business and you're there long enough and you're doing enough events, things will go wrong. But the takeaway from your story is how you are able to openly discuss the things that went wrong and still convert people. I think the more important thing is how you react. And if people see that these are not common things, there's actually a reason. People understand life happens. People get into accidents. Oh, it was a wrong address. It makes sense. And the important thing is how you react, and the fact that you can convert those people from a negative perception to booking you and leaving a positive review tells you all you need to know.
There are times where people don't want to leave us a phone number, and actually have simply changed it because now we can just require, hey, you have to give us a phone number now. But there are times where people haven't given us the address of the event for whatever reason or another. I followed up with these people, don't hear anything. I kind of know the general vicinity. There was one, it was very, very early on in my career. The attendant was like, what do I do? I was like, we know it's in this zip code. That's all we know. Stay in that zip code. We're going to get a phone call. Just wait. Sure enough, the husband calls. Hi, you're supposed to be here right now. I said, we've been calling you. No one's picked up. And we sent the questionnaire a couple of times. We never got an answer. I'm so sorry. The tenant is in the area. What's the address? And I heard this guy's husband, or this woman's husband, cuss her out over the phone. You didn't do this, la 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 la. I mean, like, it's in the way even for our clients. I mean, so it's just, you can't take everything so personally and let it get to you.
So what about people that just say no?
Just go, just bye. Just let it go. Don't fight it. I mean, if they say no, we don't have the money, no, we don't have the budget, always follow up with, do you have a budget you would like us to stay within? And if that budget is just ridiculously low, I'm sorry, just give them the number of your competitor that you hate. Say this person can help you. That way you're at least pretending to be helpful. However, if they just say no and give no reasoning, that's kind of where I have an issue with it. If they say no, I would always email back, thank you so much. We appreciate you inquiring. Why did you say no? Why are you choosing to not go with us? That's something that I will email out every now and then. I probably should do it for everyone, and I might incorporate it into my booking system. Whenever you lose a lead, have it send out an email that says, hey, listen, what could you do better? Why didn't you book with us? I'm pretty sure it's always going to be price. But there may be other obstacles that,
Yeah, there are. I mean, I actually ask every single person that does not book. They don't all reply. Most of them don't. But I always ask every single one why. And I frame it as a way of, we're always trying to improve our business. I'm just curious to hear why you decided not to book with us. Thanks for your interest. And sometimes it's price, sometimes it's something else where, we hired a DJ company. They threw a booth in their package and we went with them. Fine. I just like to build up this database of reasons and objections that people don't use me so that I can better position myself against them going forward.
I think I asked this question in a poll somewhere, and everyone said price. That was just the number one reason.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. That makes sense. And the other thing that I would say is kind of echoing what I said before. You're not going to close most people, right? So you're going to get mostly no's. Most of the time, you will not book the person. It's less than a 50-50 chance you'll book people. So you have to mentally prepare yourself to get no's. And I remember a long time ago, someone gave me this really small book. I don't think anyone needs to really buy it. I'll give you the message right now. It was called Go for No. And the whole thing was about changing your mindset about going after the no's rather than fearing the no's. Where, let's say you realize, hey, every 10 people I speak to, I get one client. Some people might say, wow, that's terrible. 1 out of 10, 10%. That's actually amazing. So instead of saying I get 9 rejections, you have to say, you know what? I got to go through 9 no's to get a booking. Sure. How many no's am I going to go through today? I want to get 5 bookings today. I got to get 50 no's. And reframe your mindset to look at it that way so that it's just, it rolls off your back onto the next one. And I think that mindset shift is critical because people fall into the trap of thinking their conversion rates are low when they're actually normal. It's just part of the game.
So this is my recommendation going forward is you as a business owner really need to focus on why people are saying no to you. That will help you on a couple of things. This is another thing. That information that you get back from a client will lead you, and I can say this happened to Ismail, is changes that you need to make within your business. If they're saying you are far too expensive, I really believe that means that you need to offer a cheaper option, whatever that may be.
And that's what I did.
And how's it worked out for you?
I mean, it's still early, but I think it's a little hard to tell now because it's just busy season, and it would have been busy crazy no matter what. But I feel like that's totally on point. You have to understand why people are not booking with you, and I think I touched on this in an earlier show maybe, but it was a topic we discussed at one of the events a lot. A lot of times people are focused on pushing, products or services that benefit them. Hey, I'll make more money on this booth. Let me push this booth. Hey, this booth is easier for me. It's less equipment to carry. Let me push this booth. The problem is that you have to consider what the client wants. The client does not care about what's easier for you or what's more profitable for you. So they may want a cheaper booth. It's your job to understand that and offer them something that falls in that category. If you don't or are not willing to, you have to be okay with passing that business along.
Well, and that's the thing is, if you pass on X amount of business, like let's say like you get, that's a common thing that you're going to get, and it is going to be, I am not booking, 10 people a week because I'm too expensive. They just want a cheaper booth. You have the option of getting a cheaper booth, honoring those requests, and taking that business, or you can give that money to someone else.
Yeah, and this might be a whole different topic, but I'll risk veering off for a minute and saying that, I took the iPad booth, I bought the iPad booth to offer a lower cost service because it'd be easier. But what I'm seeing from, Ryan, and I was actually speaking to someone else today, and a lot of other leaders in the industry, they charge the same rates for their iPad booths.
Yeah, I think I charge more.
I'm trying to challenge myself to not fall in that trap of just saying, okay, the iPad booth is a cheaper booth, because I see people that are killing it charge more or the same for it. So I just wanted to caveat that so that people don't have this perception that iPad's cheaper. It's not always cheaper, and that's something that I'm trying to learn and factor as well.
So this is something that I want everyone to do is, if you have a unique customer objection, please post it in our Facebook group. I would love to hear, A, what it is, and then B, what everyone would respond to it as at. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people that are like, screw it, let it go, you don't need the business, la la. I'm just interested to see what retention rate could possibly be. If you have X amount of leads coming in, you're booking, a percentage of that, what is a realistic percentage more that you can book?
Where do you want people to post this? Do you want it to be done in the Facebook group?
Yeah, put in the Facebook group.
I think that'd be fun, and I think we'll chime in as well. And another thing I wanted to mention is that I like to look at sales as like a fun experiment. So I try different things all the time. So if you talk to enough customers, like Ryan, you're doing 600 events a year, I imagine you're talking to thousands of people a year. Over time, if you're trying different tactics and strategies, you'll start to find things that work. So it can be fun. It can be an experiment. Play around with different things and see what sticks for you and works, what increases your conversion rate in your business. Whenever
you successfully overcome an objection, write down what you did. Remember what you did. Even so, this is something that happened. I don't know if I briefly talked about this. So a client came to me originally saying, this New York event that I just did was a 3-day event. And then that's when her boss had it and came to me with it. A month later, it got whittled down to 2 days and then to 1 day. And I'm like, I'm not going all the way to New York to do this stupid 3-hour event for 1 day. I sent her an email. I was like, listen, thanks so much. I said, I'm not going to be able to accommodate this. I said, we do have a minimum, blah, blah, blah. She goes, you know what? I completely understand. Let me see what I can do. She pulled money from another budget, and I was able to squeeze double the money out of her. Yes, it is not the original money that I had. However, if someone is going to do, like, let's say, hey, this is going to come out to, $5,000, and then it gets whittled down to $2,000. If I can squeeze $1,000 more out of someone for it to be $3 and meet in the middle, I'm completely fine with that.
And like I said, I like to have fun with this, and I'm just thinking, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I come across these little things all the time, and then I actually implement them and try, how to deal with objections. And one thing I remember, and forgive me if this is not going to come out as coherent as I'd like it to, but when people object to booking, there was one thing that I saw, and I tried this, and it was basically saying to the customer, hey, there's basically 3 major components of a service, right? It's the quality of the service, it's the price, and it's the customer service that you'd be getting. So which of these 3 categories would you like to sacrifice for your special day? And I'm butchering it now, and I'll try to find the link and post it in the show notes. But basically, you put the onus on the customer. Are you concerned about the quality? Are you concerned about the service? Or are you more concerned about the price? Because if you want a cheaper price, the other 2 things have to kind of be affected.
Oh, yeah, this is like that little sales triangle. Yeah. Like, do you want it fast? Do you want it easier? Do you want it cheap?
And I've tried this, and it worked. it worked a few times. So, like I said, it can be a game if you look at it that way. I'll try to find that and post in the show notes. Somebody actually, a fellow boother, shared that with me, and I played around with it, and it worked. So it's a game. Everyone should share their objections, and if you have any tips like that or any other strategies, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much for joining us on Super Boothers today for this lovely educational episode. We are going to be in Hollywood November 13th. It is going to be such a blast. It is from 7 to 10. Tickets are available. You can visit us online at superboothers.com/events. We are going to be doing our book club episode coming soon for Ultimate Sales Machine. If you haven't finished reading that book, I suggest you do because it's amazing and we're going to have so much fun talking about it. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.